Magandang gabi, magandang araw, magandang umaga Pilipinas at sa lahat ng mga kababayan natin na nanonood. Saan mang sulok ng mundo kayo ngayon. Pasensya na at medyo nabubulol ako dahil sa meron akong sore dito sa loob ng bunganga ko. But anyway, we still try to catch up. Pagpatuloy natin yung ating naiwanang topic about Deuterium the last time. Napag-usapan natin saan ang source at saka kumbinsido tayo at saka yung ating Pangulo na meron ngang maraming deposit ng deuterium sa Pilipinas. So, explore natin lalo, no? Pero nabanggit natin doon na hindi lang kumbinsido ang Pangulo, meron talagang inisyatibo. At gusto nilang i-revitalize ang Bataan Nuclear Power Plant dahil sa energy crisis ngayon. Alam natin na besides deuterium, yung hydrogen, kinakailangan yon na i-push. Dahil yun ang mga renewable resources at saka green energy. So, panoorin natin yung latest na interview ng ating mambabatas sa Pilipinas. Panoorin natin sa chairman ng Philippine House Committee on Nuclear Energy, Congressman Mark Cuangco.
Are you even envisioning that we would revive the Bataan nuclear power plant?
100%. It is the quickest. It can be running before the president ends his term. And I know that for a fact. No,
Okay.
I've gotten that from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
But isn't that a white elephant already? I'm sorry, Mark, the other Mark, just give me a few minutes with this thought. Isn't the BNPP a white elephant at this point? Isn't it old? I mean, Congressman, these are the issues. Would it still be safe? What about the technology of the BNPP?
The president is what's part 2 in the United States, which I already mentioned on your show before. Which was initiated 6 years prior to BNPP, was only 60% complete, was decades in mothball, and then in 2009 they decided to complete it, and in 2016 it was commissioned to be America's newest nuclear plant today.
Wow. Commissioned to be America's newest nuclear plant today. I'm not very thrilled with that part, na parang hahawakan ng Amerika ito. But anyway, let's continue on. But alam natin na merong interest, alam natin na makakatulong ito. Kaya lang, we wanted it na sa Pilipinas. So, kailan nagsimula ito? Panoorin natin. At alam natin na initiative is to continue.
Congressman, given the fact that the former President Duterte has already opened nuclear energy, put it into the energy mix in the Philippines, and you have President Marcos Jr., who stated that it's time to think about having nuclear in the energy mix. He also met with some private sector individuals involving nuclear in New York. How possible is it right now in terms of the Philippine setting to already have nuclear in the energy mix?
It's more possible than it's ever been in decades. So I'm past looking at nuclear. I'm convinced that nuclear is the only way to reduce the prices of electricity and eliminate the dependence of imported coal or gas in the form of LNG. I'll give you an example. At the start of your show, you said the high prices of electricity. Nuclear fuel would account for 55 centavos of each kilowatt hour produced, compared to now over 10 pesos, maybe even over 14 pesos per kilowatt hour for just the coal to burn for 1 kilowatt hour. So from that price difference, you can see that nuclear is compelling for the Philippine context and situation.
Okay, so yeah. Kumbinsido sila and tuloy natin kung ano pang input may bibigay ano.
So
Alright.
it's a no-brainer at this point in time with this crisis. The ROI of nuclear plants would be very short. It would be the cheapest thing we could do.
Hey, nice. Very nice.
Okay, now let's talk about the issues surrounding nuclear. You said that it's cheaper than coal.
Much.
And much cheaper. But based on a report that was done by Lazard in 2021, they wrote that the levelized cost of energy would actually put nuclear still more expensive compared to renewable energy. So
If you,
Go.
yeah, go ahead. Is that for me or for Mark?
I want to ask Mark right now of Radiant Energy Group, what is your reaction to the Lazard report in 2021?
Yes, so Lazard pioneered the annual release of this LCOE, levelized cost of electricity study, and eventually, because of the problems that people were have when trying to rely on those numbers, they had to put a disclaimer at the bottom saying, "Don't compare solar and nuclear. Don't compare solar and wind. You can't compare different types of energy," which of course makes a little bit of a joke about putting it together on one report.
Yeah.
The problem is, if you compare the cost of bicycling across the country versus taking a flight, you would find that bicycles are cheaper than buying airplanes. You would find that it uses less energy to bike. In fact, you would find that swimming across the ocean is cheaper than flying across, except you won't get there. You won't actually survive the journey, and the cheapness up front is compensated by it being a lower energy, worse form of transit. Now, not everyone can afford a plane ticket. A rich society has airplanes and air travel. The question is, can the Philippines make the investment to have a cheaper and better energy supply? And I think I agree with Congressman Mark that now is the time, the best time in decades to make that happen.
Yes. I agree too. It's about time that we must become energy independent. Na hopefully, hindi tayo controlled o hindi tayo magiging tuta ng Amerika pagdating dito. It's disappointing pagka binigay natin ang control sa kanila. Okay, so being luma na itong BNPP, they might have revitalized it at pakinggan natin kay Chairman Juanco kung ano yung update and upgrade and meron siyang binanggit na certification.
It was granted a 40-year operating license and is entitled to two 20-year extensions for a total operating lifetime of 80 years. So our DNPT was 100% complete. It actually finished its hot functional testing, which is to run everything under high pressure. And it was certified by IAEA OSAR 2 mission, which came here and checked everything and certified as ready for core loading. So it's complete.
Wow. So, wow. Merong certification that it could run for 40 years, then 20 and 20. Wow, another 80 years. That's pretty good. Okay, so pakinggan natin ang evaluation ng engineer about the condition ng BNPP.
And I want to ask Mark Nelson now, are you seeing the same possibility with the Bataan nuclear power plant? Is Radiant Energy, are you the kind of company that can actually revive it?
So first of all, I have to say that a week ago, I had probably a different answer. A week ago, I was talking to the congressman and saying, hey, don't get your hopes up too much. Although other countries operate an identical model, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to start yours up in a quick period of time if no one's interested in doing it. No one interested. So that's the second part. I am an advisor. I was trained as an engineer, but I'm not going to go do the engineering, and I'm not going to find you $2 billion to fund your nuclear plant. That's somebody else. I can tell you how the reactors work. I can advise what the public
And what did
sphere's
you
concerns and
discover?
hopes are.
So what
What
did
I
you
discovered is that BNPP is in much better shape than I possibly could have imagined. But that's not even the key part. The key part is I hadn't realized that BNPP had passed all the hurdles to enter safe operation more than a year before it was mothballed. By that, I mean it did the most extreme and difficult tests that a nuclear plant will ever face before turning on. It did the hot functional test. That is, for us engineers, that is the final step before getting a slip of paper saying, load that fuel. And speaking of the slip of paper saying, load that fuel, the International Atomic Energy Agency had signed off on BNPP as ready to go, which is a product of a grueling series of investigations and checks. You guys had everything you needed for a reactor that's identical to the ones operated. There's one in Brazil, there's one in Korea, there's one in Slovenia, of identical makes and models that are even in some cases older than BNPP. So although I would not be coming and doing the upgrade works, having seen it with my own eyes and having talked to the operators that the Philippines trained to run your plants, there's still 10 of the original 13 operators who were chosen from 1,000 candidates to be the elite core of operators for your nuclear fleet at day one. Having talked to them, having seen the plant with my own eyes, and having talked to the world-leading experts who can complete this work, I have to say that I've been convinced in just 1 week.
Wow. Okay. Very impressive. Very impressive evaluation from engineer standpoint. So, ready na pala ito. Wow. What a big surprise. Is a legitimate concern, of a waste that radioactive waste management on how it should be dealt. So let's listen to the experts.
big concern is the waste that comes from nuclear energy and health. So you have environmental groups already saying that you have radioactive wastes such as uranium mill tailings, used reactor fuel, and other radioactive wastes. What do you do with that? And some studies have shown that it can affect human health for thousands of years. Mark Nelson, you can take this.
Sure. So the first thing to know about the nuclear waste is it hasn't hurt anybody anywhere in the world. And because a country of the size of the Philippines or smaller population but higher energy country like Switzerland keeps all the nuclear waste in one building.
Okay.
Just one little building. And they handle it maybe once every couple of years, and they just move it here to there. And they can decide they could put it in the ground, or they could not, or they could wait a century. Doesn't really matter. The longer you wait to do anything with nuclear waste, the less dangerous it is. And since it hasn't hurt anybody when it's most dangerous, it's hard to see how it would hurt people when it's less dangerous. In terms of the uranium millings and mine tailings, uranium mining is controlled much tighter than the mining of the materials that go into wind and solar. So the reason why China dominates the entirety of the solar supply chain around the world is because the mining and the tailings are so disgusting, so toxic, so nasty, and so large that other countries just can't really afford to compete with the standards used in the Chinese solar industry. So the question is, if environmental groups don't know the facts about the waste that I just said, and they don't understand the waste from the things that they're promoting, you have to ask how they call them. Like, what is it that makes them environmentalists? What if you ask them to draw you a picture or to describe the most dangerous nuclear waste? I think you'd find them, and if you did that live on the show, I think you'd find them stumbling to try to make up an answer. because they're not interested in the reality of the waste. They don't know that it's the fuel rods. They don't know that there's canisters. They don't know that Switzerland puts it in one room. They don't know those things.
And one thing is
to
it's
stop
much
nuclear.
smaller. It's much smaller. That's the waste. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Congressman Mark?
Yes, waste is a non-issue for me after looking at this issue for 15 years. Spent nuclear fuel, which are assemblies, which is what you saw, what I brought.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
put that in a canister of thick stainless steel, you weld it shut, you put it 2 kilometers deep in a horizontal borehole, you backfill it with mud and cement,
Okay.
and it's attention and cost-free for eternity, forever. It's tapos na, no? But the question is, why would you want to do that when that has a 20x, 20 times reusability? So it's a great wealth that
I
we
see.
should bequeath to our descendants that would be usable in generation 4 reactors. Not right away, but in generation 4 reactors. Like, for example, if we had run DNTP since 1986 till today, we would have over, 700 years worth of free fuel for tomorrow's 620 megawatt Gen 4 reactor.
Mm-mm.
So that's a great wealth that I don't know why we would bury it.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so wow, impressive. Radioactive waste material management. What I missed there is that because potentially yung nuclear reactor could yield some radioactive isotope na tinatawag nilang tritium, which is actually being used right now in combination of deuterium para mag-produce ng helium or plasma, which is what they're working so hard right now and funding with ton of money, yung nuclear fusion. So tayo medyo behind tayo, no? Nasa nuclear reactor phase tayo, gamitin natin yung dati nating plant, while the bigger countries are now working on fusion, tokamak, and jet in UK. So they must be talking about tritium. Next time we will discuss. We'll find discussions and data about tritium, which is possibly there's going to be a shortage of it. Pag successful na yung naipush na nila yung fusion, which is to produce another renewable energy, but it requires deuterium and tritium. There's interesting cost comparison analysis as Congressman Mark is going to end this talk. Let's listen.
yes, the equivalent of $1 billion worth of coal is $20 million worth of nuclear fuel assembly. So that's That's 50 to 1. So I think it's a no-brainer, mga kababayan. Nasa sa inyo po ito kung masabi nyo mabuti sa inyong mga politiko na ito ang gusto nyo, ito ang solusyon sa murang kuryente, tingin ko kikilos sila. So ipaalam nyo po sa inyong mga leader.
On that note, Congressman Mark Coanco, chairperson of the House Committee on Nuclear Energy, and Mr. Mark Nelson, thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay, yeah. I like that. I like that idea. The cost analysis comparison sa coal na ini-import natin to power up some of our electricity needs. So, yes, I am convinced. I hope mga kababayan natin maintindihan natin ito at mapag-aralan natin, mapag-usapan natin. Kaya ito yung video natin na ginagawa upang magkaroon tayo ng educated na pagkakaintindi at analysis at saka makapag-contribute tayo positively sa discussion. Okay. So, i-end ko muna ito rito and ipagpatuloy natin sa susunod yung nuclear fusion and tritium, and we're moving towards hydrogen. Okay, so hopefully everybody's doing well and stay happy sa susunod na pagkikita natin.